Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brownstone. I'm your host, Dr. Michele, and you're listening to Numbers Don't Lie, where you learn to get out your feelings so you can make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and your business. I am so excited about today's episode. My guest today, we connected on LinkedIn, so there is power in LinkedIn, and it's so nice and refreshing to see that there are more Black women in the space that I'm in. So we're finding each other, because we do great work, but it's just nice to see that diversity is happening. There's more than just me out there. So I'm really excited to introduce this next guest. She is an internal auditor. Now I had to ask her what it was because I was like, well, I hear auditor, I think taxes. But she was like, I mean, there's some similarities, but I'm going to let her tell you more about that. We're going to talk about just some things that most business owners need to do. I think it happens at a high level. But if you're a business owner, when you get to a good place, you do need to monitor what you are doing. What are your employees doing? You want to make sure you're functioning like a well-oiled machine. Without further ado, guys, please welcome my guest, Sherry Dial. Hey,
Hello.
Sherry.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I appreciate you.
Oh, well, could you tell the people more about who you are? How did you even land in this field?
Yeah, absolutely. So I honestly love seeing other people grow, including myself. I don't like when I feel like potential is wasted. So I like supporting that and nurturing that. And I really feel like a lot of that has to do with when I was younger, my parents told me probably from an early age, I almost died multiple times. And so, yeah. And so I think at an early age, I realized life has a purpose, it has meaning, and I got a lot of clarity early on from that. And that's, I think, largely why I just love growing and learning and pushing the boundaries. So that's essentially what led me to the entrepreneurial journey that I'm on right now.
Okay, so how's it been going in this entrepreneurship journey?
Honestly, I have this quote that I like to share. It's anything worth having is worth fighting for. That is like
Mm,
my mantra. It has not been a smooth road. It's not been a smooth
I
road.
I echo that sentiment.
Yeah, it's not, but it's definitely worth having. I envision a life of freedom and to show my
Mm,
children how to have that same flexibility and prioritize family, also like hone your craft and elevate your education experience and things like that. And so I want to model that behavior. So I am learning how to do things that I don't know how to do. So
that's good. And guess what, Sherry?
what?
You can do hard things.
That's right.
Just
Say it
like
again.
a little affirmation. You can do hard things, girl.
That's right. Yuki. Yes.
So, I told the people what I thought when I first heard about, like, okay, what's an internal auditor? So, could you tell in just plain words, what is an internal auditor?
I love that you said in plain words because sometimes when I'm explaining it, I can get really caught up in industry jargon. So I've
Mm,
been working on just exactly what you said, plain words. And for me, the most important part about internal auditing or an internal auditor is understanding it's a consulting activity. And there's three things that I focus on mostly. One, when I'm working with the organization, is what are the risks and how do you plan to address them? And then the next one I'm thinking about, I'm looking for, are you compliant with whatever standards are your specific industry? Are you compliant? And the third one are, what are the opportunities for improvement? Those are the three things I'm
mm.
looking for in my role as an internal auditor. Um, it's just amazing how much growth you can find when you look through those lens, through those 3 points.
Now, the reason why I'm not, it's not a question, but it's more just something that is on my mind because I just not too long ago did a live with someone. And because I met you, I used literally the word auditor, like auditing, to help them understand what I was trying to say. And we were talking about like the wealth gap. And I was like, sometimes you can like these organizations, banking industry, finance industry organizations, they can assess if they're actually doing what they're saying they're doing. So if you're saying, oh, we're equal opportunity lenders, are you? And so is that something that, does that make sense when I say like auditor, like they're actually looking to see if they're, I don't want to say compliant, but if they're actually equal lenders, or we treat everyone the same way? Is that something that you could be doing? Am I in the right?
Yeah,
Am I
you hit
right
the head
path
on the nail. Yeah, you hit the head on the nail. One of the biggest pieces about internal auditing principles is management sets the tone at the top. They kind of create how they want their organization to run. A lot of internal auditing relies heavily on assuring, shareholders or anyone who's invested in the company, are management doing what they said that they want to do? Are they achieving their own goals? Are they staying on track with that? There's a lot of non-partisanship or not a lot of bias in internal auditing. It's simply like looking at information, facts, data, metrics, things like that to see, are you truly doing what you said you were going to do? So in your example of like equitable lending, you can look at the stats and see how many people of color have been approved for a loan versus people who are not. Those would be the information that would be utilized, not just like anecdotally or an opinion or how I feel. So yeah,
Oh, I love that.
hit the head on the nail. Yeah, you got it.
So apparently these tech companies need to hire you too, because I was doing a presentation not too long ago, and of course DEI is still a buzzword, even though they're trying, there are some people that are trying to get rid of it. But they were talking about how these tech companies have invested all this money into DEI efforts, and I'm not saying the needle really has not moved. So when I say large tech companies, I'm talking about Google, Apple have invested these millions of dollars, and they're in the same place they were like 5 or 6 years ago. Like the diversity of employees is really no different. So I mean, what do these people need to be doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? What are they missing?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's such a great question, because at some places that I've worked, I actually was on like a board, the DEI board, where I sort of brainstormed and worked with them. So this question works really well with things that I do outside of internal auditing. But I feel like it's just creating a culture of accountability. Yeah, I think that really is the crux of how companies can really improve. When you show accountability for things that have been done or that you have done in the past or whatever, and then you decide to make a change, it really helps the overall process work really well, because people buy into it, they understand it. You've shown that what you have done, you no longer are going to do, and I think that really helps. So just a culture of accountability, I feel like, and not just forward facing stock picks or just surface level things that you think may move the needle forward. It's just really acknowledging, what has been done. It's not going to be done anymore, and this is what we're going to do. And that has to come from the top. So,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Otherwise, they just think you complaining down there. Like, what the little people talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, because I wanted people to know some of the cool things that you've done and to really open their mind. Because you've worked with a small tech startup and led them to I'm not making this up. Okay, this is what it says: a 1,500% increase in paid subscribers. I'm sure all of us would love our subscription model to skyrocket like that. So can you share some of the challenges you face to helping this organization like to achieve such growth? Because that's a huge thing. And it was during COVID.
Yeah.
So I'm interested I got to hear the story.
Okay. So I think it's fair when I start this story, Dr. Michele, to say that the tech startup company was as an app that provides wellness and walking. And so a lot of a lot of things aligned where if the problem was people needed motivation to walk or to do more exercises in their home, a lot of that aligned when the pandemic occurred, when people found themselves either confined to being indoors or if they had the ability to walk outdoors, they could. So that I think is fair to say that the pandemic actually, in my opinion, worked towards that niche of a company. But outside of that, to your point, most subscription models, we really just did a lot of experimental type approaches, like formed a hypothesis of what we thought would work. We identified some metrics. I'm gonna need you to just.
I'm sorry, I got excited because I was a speaker at a summit this past weekend, and I literally said that, like, let's take it back to the scientific method. Start out with something, test it out. Does it work? And just keep iterating. So I'm really glad to hear you say that. So keep going. I'm sorry.
Listen, when I read anything that you post, I do the same thing in my mind. I'm like, amazing. But to your point, yeah, just hypothesize what you think would happen and identify a metric that would actually track it and then do just that, implement it and track it. So I'll give you an example. A lot of success came from two metrics, one called churn and one called retention. So
we talked about that with, hold on, sorry, I do a quick plug. We talked about that with the customer experience queen, Angela Black. So y'all might need to check that episode out because it's all about the customer. It's customer centric. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I haven't talked about that episode yet, but I definitely will because hopefully I'm not saying anything redundant, but churn is essentially when your customers leave. Yeah, they no longer use your product or service. And retention is just the strategy you put in place to keep them, to use that. And so when we look through the lens of just those two metrics, one, getting the CEO on board and then disseminating that information to the rest of the team, and just almost making it like gamifying it, make it like a really interesting game with just those two metrics, this company was able to skyrocket in the sense of what you were saying, that the byproduct honestly was the 1,500% growth. The actual solution that happened was everyone could see in their own silo what they did and how it impacted those two metrics. And so at that point, everyone had like a roadmap to know, okay, if I deal with CRM, how can I impact these two metrics? If I deal with the actual, like, I'm the app developer, or if I am the person who deals with, anything, they just started understanding how their roles integrated very well with the overall financial health of the company. And honestly, I think we were all surprised, but I was not surprised at the growth. I think we were all surprised at how much, but you'll find growth when you align your team with just a couple of simple improvements.
Did you know that data-driven organizations were 19 times more profitable? 19! You heard me right. Perhaps you're asking, what is data-driven and how do I become one of those organizations? I'm so glad you asked. I want you to go take a quiz. It's a simple, quick quiz to help you assess if you are in fact one of those organizations. Head over to mogulbeginnings.com/data into dollars quiz now. That's mogulbeginnings.com. You just go to mogulbeginnings.com and it'll show you the data into dollars quiz. Take it now. You'll see if you're on your way to 19xing your profitability. You're listening to Numbers Don't Lie on KCCR Cityscape. We hope you're enjoying the tunes and all the jams. Make sure you visit our website over at brownstoneworldwide.com to learn about all things Brownstone. You can check out Brownstone Living Magazine and all the great things that we have on the website, as well as the shop. You just got to head over to the website, brownstoneworldwide.com. Awesome. I bet that commercial about the data, like the 19xing, because it kind of all melded together what you were saying, because what you were saying is that the organizations you guys work with created a data-driven culture. And I think that's imperative, because I remember listening to another business owner talk about their success. And I asked that, and she literally said the same thing, like, it's everyone's job to be concerned about these metrics. It can't just be the guys at the top. And it can't just be the ones at the bottom. Like everybody has to know the plan. Everybody has to know how important these metrics are or what your metric is. Because one person's may have been this, which fed into another person's. But I love that example because it really showed the power of creating this data-driven culture. So that's how you see the night, like the commercial said, 19xing revenue and increasing your, because that was from the McKinsey Global Institute. And the data-driven organizations, they exponentiate their revenue. They're able to retain customers better. And you literally just said that. Churn and retention. So y'all, I'm happy that I'm not the only one saying it. And you gave it a real life example that when you actually pay attention to your metrics and you build strategy around it, you can see exponential growth. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I also read that your efforts help a manufacturing company save a hefty six-figure amount. And I think it's important to kind of think about business as a part, because we always think about making more money, right? We think our investment, if I invest this amount of money, it should make me this. Yes, yeah. But also investing money can help you prevent costly mistakes. So it's still an investment, right? So I want to hear more about how you're able to help a manufacturing company save like six figures. Like what would you got? What y'all doing? What metrics y'all listen to? I'm here. I gotta hear it.
Okay, this was a really fun one. So it's not quite so much as the metrics we were looking at for this one. It was identifying what wasn't being done. So I'll give you an example. This private manufacturer, they produce firearms for civilians, law enforcement, military, and the salesmen, their jobs are to get to the dealers and sell as much product as possible. That is their main thought. That is their main focus. They drive company vehicles in order to do this. So the company had a fleet of vehicles. And the biggest question when I started with this company is who's maintaining the vehicles? Who's making sure it's properly registered, the tags aren't expired, it's titled, who is checking who's using the vehicles. They would switch vehicles if they were in a rush, like the gas, the preventive maintenance. How many hours are the vehicle being used versus idle? Like no one's looking at any of this. And I think that for me, by fleet or company vehicles being an asset, I was thinking that should be where we should start. And so having the idea of, I know you would love this, of a dashboard of actually, just bringing in all this information into one spot. If you have, I can't remember how many it was, but let's just say if you have 50 vehicles, the best way to manage that is to put all that information into one spot and have that software sort of automate when are the tags due, compute the metrics that, to your point, like the vehicle utilization rates and different things like that, have it all put in a report so that someone in a decision-making role can look at it and say, oh, okay, we need to make these improvements here. So that's essentially what I did with that private manufacturer. And it just, like you said, it just saved them so much money because one, they were the clients were, the salespeople were compliant with any regulatory things, the Department of Motor Vehicles, because they have tags that are not expired. You're looking at your accident rates, so they're safe. You're looking at driver behavior, so you can make decisions about who you want to drive, maybe your newer vehicles versus your older vehicles. So yeah, you start saving a ton of money when you are checking for compliance, areas of improvement, and what are the risks and how are you addressing them.
That is so good. Of course, I love that you mentioned the dashboard. But what I took away from that is you give the decision makers the ability to make the decisions now. And I think a lot of times, you mentioned it earlier about like anecdotes and our feelings. Like a lot of us, I'm gonna say us so that way, the people don't think it's just them. We're not gonna just step on y'all toes. Depending on where you are in business, sometimes we do run our business off of how we feel that day, or this is what everyone else is doing, or just I have a hunch. And you'll be surprised, like majority of businesses run off of hunches, off of I think, and you know what I mean, like my gut. But I love that you said we are positioning the decision makers to make a quality decision, because this is based off of facts, it's based off what's happening, based off the data, and not just, oh, so and so said that it's okay. Like that's how it is. Oh, so and so said the car is fine. What?
Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's actually a part of the reason why data-driven organizations are more profitable, because, and again, the McKinsey Global Institute, they point out that they make, I think it's 3 times better. They feel like, I think 3 times better about making quality decisions. Like I feel good about that I made this decision. It's because it's founded in some facts here.
Yeah. And I also add, not even just in your feelings, but think about competing priorities. Most salespeople,
Mm-hmm.
they're 100% commission. So their priority is making as many sales as possible and getting to the next destination to share the brand and to share the products. They're not thinking about what, say, like an administrative or business side priority, which is like compliance and regulations and saving gas and preventive maintenance. That's not their priority. So when you, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, institute more data driven or data to decision makers, it sort of like bridges that gap so that
Yeah.
they now understand, really kind of like what's the best direction to go for the overall company.
That's powerful, because you are right. You have people working in silos. That's their thing. And salesmen, like the salespeople, are so funny because, like you said, they have their goal. I got to sell this amount this month to eat, or whatever the
Yeah,
case may be. Or I got a trip coming up and I need to make sure, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
and that's fine. You're good at
yeah,
what you do. But a lot of times, like you said, they're not really thinking about other aspects of the business. Because I've been in that place where it's just like the salespeople are coming, or they're saying one thing, but I'm like, hold on, you didn't think this through, because that's not true. And it's not that they were trying to lie, like they think that's what it is, or it hasn't been communicated or updated to them. So
yeah,
I love that you said it's bridging that information. Like everyone is in our silo. Like that's just how businesses are. You got departments, and
yeah,
each department doesn't always know what the other one is doing. So having something like a dashboard, it creates a better dialogue and conversation for multiple departments to be able to have with each other.
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay, my last question is, how important is quality data when you're working with these organizations? Because I know I've experienced, working with organizations, and they want us to do something, but because of the way the data is, either it's non-existent, or it's just like they might have changed how they did things. Like it's a lot of times very messy. So could you talk to us a little more about like data quality when you're actually tasked to do something? Like how hard is it to do your job if it's not there? Like I just want to hear a story behind that.
Yeah, I honestly feel like what you just painted gives people like you and I a lot of job security, because we know it's a pain point for somebody and it's a much needed thing because it's messy. Like you're right. And it makes sense. But quality data is critical. I mean, just we call it clean data in my field, where
Me
you
too.
want to make sure the data is accurate and complete. So you want to really clean it and make sure that it meets those two criteria, because honestly, there's no point in working any further if you don't have a great starting point. And that's, like you said, with the data. And I feel like you can, like to your point earlier, you can give decision makers really good information so that they can make decisions that really impact not just the business right now, but the legacy of their business. If you start with good quality data, a lot of things that we do in our field of internal auditors, we call it walkthroughs. We sit down with someone who actually does the job, and we interview them and we find out if they're competent and capable of doing that. I mean, honestly, sometimes that can rub them the wrong way because they've been doing it for so many years and they feel like, who are you to come and ask me, how do I do it? But it's not to be insulting is because I'm an
Right.
auditor. That my job is never to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to do your job. Um, I'm just providing like material assurance that the numbers are not materially misstated. So all I'm really trying to find out is if you know your job as well as you say you do, that gives me more confidence in the data.
That's good. And that ego, let me tell you, it has kept people from really growing the way they should because like you said, oh, we've been doing this way. I know what I'm doing. And that's okay. It's nothing wrong if you've been doing something for a long time, but I think it's an attitude about that willingness to grow. Like because you can't grow and stay the same at the same time. Like it's just not possible. So I love that you even brought that dynamic in because that can be a barrier to doing really great and innovative things. Like if you're interested in becoming a data-driven organization, like you guys are kind of just running right now, but there's no strategy about growth and scaling. When you sit down with someone like Sherry or myself, I mean, if you have people there that's kind of, I'm not changing, I've been doing it like this, they may be a thorn. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all, that's all I'm gonna say. They may be a thorn. Anything else you want to say about that, Sherry?
No, I think you hit the head on the nail. I mean, it's just there's good change.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like a Japanese word, kaizen or something. It is there. Change can be good. It can be scary, but it can be good. And the data takes a lot of that fear out because it's just
Good.
non-biased, objective, independent information about things that have already happened. You can formulate patterns and decide if I keep doing it this way, it's going to continue.
That's what we call insanity, right? Okay, I'm gonna get off your toes. I'm gonna get off your toes. I would say any words for people that are interested into hiring someone like you? Like, what are some things they need to consider before they pick up the phone?
Honestly, it's pain points. What are your pain points? Are you pretty much sick and tired of being sick and tired of doing certain things or receiving certain results? I think another phrase is like chicken, running around like a chicken with your head cut off or something. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
honestly feel when you are at a point where you need to push the pause button and figure out what's going on. I personally like it when people hire me in a preventive um, manner where before you have the problem, you're creating a data driven culture and you're seeing the importance. But I understand, especially like with small businesses, that's the furthest thing from your radar. You're
Right.
really you're wearing all the hats and you're doing all the things. That's not possible. But and from a larger organization, if things have been working really well, I can see why you wouldn't want to do anything different either. But most people look for me when things aren't going really well.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it would be best, even if you don't hire someone like me, to just, to your point, think of all of the information that's being shared on your platforms that kind of at least let you keep that in the back of your mind that this is what you need to help your business grow.
Absolutely. Now, since you're talking about, reaching out to you, tell us how to find you.
All right. Yeah, I have a website. It's dowservicesllc.com. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn, Dow Services LLC, and I'm on Instagram, Dow Services LLC.
Awesome. So Dow Services, you said it's dowservicesllc.com.
Yes.
Okay. And or you can y'all, if y'all Google Dow Services LLC, she's gonna come up.
Yep.
Okay. So if something resonated that she said, please reach out to her. Tell you heard her on the Numbers Don't Lie podcast. You know what I'm saying? Give me some shout out in there. And of course, you can find me, Dr. Michele, on all things, social media, website at Mogul Beginnings. Says MOGUL, Mogul Beginnings. And yeah, and be sure to connect with me also on brownstoneworldwide.com. All things Brownstone, there's tons of things on the website. in the magazine, Brownstone Living Magazine. I have an article there every month. So brownstoneworldwide.com. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much, Sherry, for stopping by the Brownstone and chatting with